Yeah, so somebody suggested being able to modify your own waveforms in much the same way that you can in Operator. They're referring to obviously the oscillator waveforms that you can create and modify, which is great, actually, a really nice idea, having this kind of bar graph approach to creating waveforms. And then the idea being to transpose that to or enable that kind of waveform creation for an LFO. Well, that just got me thinking about a couple of things that already exist, both in Live and in Macs and other devices too. The first one that sprang to mind is a plugin that I've been using for quite some time now. Let me just pull up a drum loop of some description. Get this loaded in. Okay, so we've got a drum loop there. So I've been using this device TAL filter. It's a free plugin that I've had for ages. Used it on lots of things for all different kinds of reasons, but it is basically a modulation tool, and you can assign various filters to it, which is quite useful. But I've actually been primarily using it with the volume. And then you can set a grid here, so this is 1 bar. In fact, it's actually 2 bars. What am I talking about? That's 4 bars, isn't it? Okay, so that's 4 bars, so this will be 2 bars, okay. 16th gives you beats. Okay, and then you can use the points here to create a waveform. So this is basically an LFO. Now I use this, the main use I have for this is to create volume reduction at the beginning of a clip, instead of using a sidechain compression on a compressor. Because you can really nicely adjust this groove, and also the attack. I tend to do quite a steep, and then allow for a little bit of groove. And I find this just a really useful tool for very specifically tailoring an envelope, a volume envelope, to to the transient of a kick or whatever else I'm trying to cut out of the track to make room for. So then, what I thought you could do after that is, because we can create this sort of kind of crazy envelope, we could combine something like just a straight sine wave from Operator here. Let's just knock this up. In fact, we could even do it with, probably best to do it with noise. Okay, so if we create some noise, and just create a noise note here. Again, it doesn't matter which note it is because it's noise. And then I'm going to get this this TAL filter tool and put it on here. Play this. Let's put this on a little bit slower. So now we've got this kind of audio signal coming through that's being affected by this LFO. We've also got a quite nice depth function here. Again, that's useful when you're sort of tailoring the volume envelopes, and you'll notice that you can also set the start and end points here. And you've also got these little curvature nodes, so you can adjust the curve on these points. You can make some really kind of all kinds of different curves basically. So we could get this, and then we could do something like adding the envelope follower tool, perhaps. I mean, I'm kind of making this up as I go along, but so we can see this envelope follower is following now this little envelope that we've created. We can add a bit of gain to it. That's quite cool, isn't it? And then what do we want to modulate now? So we could say, let's just get this drum loop going, and then add an auto filter to it, just because that'll be a really easy example, and then go back to this and map to the auto filter cutoff. Okay, that's pretty swish, it's nothing that impressive, but we could do operator in here, and then perhaps we could just put in a little 2-note thingamajig here. Another thing that we could do with this LFO that we've created, of course, is we can add a utility after it to mute the original sound. We can also change this, but we could also then add the old multi-map tool, which is fantastic. Again, perhaps yeah, this one's good. So what I can do with this one, doesn't really matter where it is in the sequence. Oh, is that the right one? Yeah, this is the one. And then I could unmap this, map this to the multi-map, and then I have the option of mapping an abundance of parameters to other devices across the I'm just going to go for I can basically map this to all kinds of anything really. Let's put that, turn the LFO on. Obviously a little bit of a faff getting backs and forwards here, but you can kind of get where I'm going with this. Guess I'm going to have to dial in a bit of level here. Swish little sort of sound design idea there. No, I didn't remap that one, so let's just remap that one for a laugh. You know, just kind of got me thinking. There's always a way to do stuff. This does involve obviously a free device and Max for Live, but then you know these are what I would consider to be essential tools these days. Max for Live especially. Yeah, I hope that kind of gets people thinking outside the box a little bit.